Hello everybody, my name is Nate the Effing Great, and this is indeed the Game Changer, the Extreme Rules Review Show. It is time to talk about one of the what seemingly was going to be a very lackluster event, considering the name is Extreme Rules. We thought, well, there should be more of the, Extreme Rules stipulations and stuff like that. There really wasn't. But honestly, you guys, it was a better show than I honestly expected. I was honestly expecting this to be a bit of a flop, and it really wasn't. It was a night full of surprises as well as some good matches here. And let's just not waste any time. Let's just get right into it. First off, gotta cover the pre-show. We kicked it off with Andrade Cien Almas with Zelina Vega taking on Sin Cara in a rematch from what took place this past Tuesday on SmackDown Live. Now, I absolutely loved the match that they had this past Tuesday. It was exciting. It was very fast-paced. They really meshed well together. And I was kind of excited to see these two locking up again. Honestly, it's not as good as the Tuesday night matchup, but it still holds its own as a really good matchup. And this feud here between Sin Cara and Andrade Cien Almas was actually it's just really good. I really enjoy it. I love that they just complement each other very well. At this point, I'm thinking that Andrade might be the next AJ Styles. No matter who he fights off against, he's going to make the other guy look good while looking good himself. It's absolutely amazing how it goes. The ending happened with Zelina Vega distracting Sin Cara, which allowed Andrade to hit a dropkick in the corner. Then he did hit his double knees and the hammerlock DDT for the 1-2-3. Rating here, I'm going to go with a B on this one. It was still a good matchup. Like I said, not as good as their match that they had on SmackDown, but I really enjoy the chemistry that Sin Cara and Andrade Cien Almas have with each other, and I could take a couple more matches with them as long as they add something new to it. We go into the first Extreme Rules match stipulation of the night, which is a tables match between the New Day and Sanity. And this was a pretty good matchup, but honestly, it was a big showcase for guys like Big E and Killian Dane. Killian Dane hit a suicide dive on Kofi and Woods after Kofi and Woods took out Eric Young with a springboard dive over the top ropes. We saw Big E and Killian Dane, definitely demonstrating the power that both of them have. It was a really good deal. One thing I definitely will say is that during the matchup, it looks like Killian Dane hit a Michinoku driver on Woods, and Corey Graves said something about landing on Big E. I don't know if I necessarily saw that. I think that it was one of those things where it was kind of a bit far from each other. I think that Killian Dane maybe sat on Big E, but I don't think Woods, fell on top of Big E. Matchup ended with Alexander Wolf holding Kofi Kingston on the ropes, and Eric Young would hit a elbow drop from the top and send Kofi Kingston through a table for giving Sanity the victory. Another B matchup. It was a pretty good matchup between them. All six looked pretty good. All six of them had a point in the match where they had some really incredible spots. One of my favorite spots of the matchup, and as well as others, was Big E and Xavier Woods. They have Alexander Wolf and Eric Young in powerbomb positions, and then Kofi just leaps off the top rope, and does kind of like a foot stomp deal on both of their shoulders, so it kind of looks like it's supposed to go like a powerbomb down, and Kofi kind of gives more force to it. It was honestly a good deal. It was a cool moment, a really good spot. Honestly, I'm hoping that this feud continues just a bit more. I really would love to see Sanity get more solid victories before moving on to the next program, because Sanity definitely deserves to be up there as far as tag teams go. And New Day is slowly going to start, I think they're going to start doing that dissension deal. They're going to slowly start separating, but only time will tell. Now we finally get on to the main card, which the first matchup on there was the Raw Tag Team Championship, in which we see Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy defending their Raw Tag Team titles against the B Team. The match itself is nothing too crazy. They definitely do play the fact that Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas are brothers. I loved the deal where they have Bray Wyatt tag in. He's in the ring with his brother, Bo, and then Bo just tags Curtis Axel, just like, yeah, no, you're not going to get me that easily. It was a very fast-paced matchup, and that's something that you'll definitely notice with a lot of these matches, that either they're very quick or they're very fast-paced to the point that it seems like these matches are just very, very slow. Are not slow, are very, very quick. Excuse me. So, the matchup ends with Bo Dallas hitting his, what I like to call the ego trip, but it's the top rope neck breaker, and pins Matt Hardy. We have new Raw Tag Team champions in the B Team. This was an honestly legitimate shock for me. I could not believe that they would do this kind of a title change so quickly with them. The last time I saw this deal where it's like, oh, they got all the momentum in the world and they go on to win a championship, it had to be probably 2002 last time I remember. It was the deal with Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman, where Kidman beat Noble in a tag team match, and then he beat him in a single non-titles matchup, and then he would end up winning the Cruiserweight title at that year's Survivor Series. So it was kind of very similar, but the crowd was in shock, but they were also electric because they loved the B Team, and WWE has given them something that they definitely want. It is something that I was frankly, again, shocked by, but also was great. As far as the rating goes, it's a B for a B Team victory. Like I said, the main thing that really gives it this rating is the shock value that happens at the end. I loved it. I love the fact that they're giving new teams a bit of a bit of fresh air. So now the question is going to be, are we going to see the rematch between Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy versus the B Team, or are they just going to go off against some other team like, the Ascension, or Heath Slater and Rhino, or Breezango? And this is more than likely going to be a setup because they may in fact be transitional champions for the Authors of Pain. Hate to say that, but it's going to feel that way if the B Team loses the titles within the next day or so. But, well, again, we'll see. Only time will tell. Boy howdy, I was not expecting this matchup to be so good. Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin. Now, Baron Corbin has been doing this gimmick for the last few weeks, in which he's wrestled in a kind of suit-like deal. He has the dress pants, he has the dress shoes, he's got the dress shirt. No vest on during this matchup, which was kind of disappointing. But I also remember the intro for Baron Corbin, where he was introduced as Constable Baron Corbin. Then he's yelling at JoJo, basically just do my intro right, and Stephanie McMahon's appointed Constable Baron Corbin. So they really are just hammering the fact that Baron Corbin has a little bit of leeway in the company, but also it's just one of those situations where he's just saying, yeah, I'm giving credit where credit's due. Stephanie McMahon gave me this job. It's really a good matchup, though. What really did stand out of it is the speed of Baron Corbin. There came one moment where Baron Corbin did his deal where, he slides around the ring post and back into the ring, almost like a boomerang, and does a clothesline to Finn Balor. And one of the things that Max said that we mentioned that really stood out was the fact that he definitely was working a lot more faster. He seemed like his wrestling ability was a lot better last night than any other night. It could have been the fact that he, shaved his head. It could have been something else. But Baron Corbin looked really good last night. I was very surprised at how much better in the ring he was. Kind of reminded me of his NXT days, but kind of amplified a little bit. The only thing that was missing was Baron Corbin just yelling at Finn Balor to just, go back to New Japan, go back to your club. And Baron Corbin during this was doing a lot of, mockery of the two sweets. Finn Balor would get offense every now and then. He would hit the sling blade, fall up into the shotgun drop kick into the corner. Finn Balor would look to hit the coup de grace. Baron Corbin pushes Finn Balor down, and he sets him up for the end of days. And what was a beautiful motion deal was where he goes for the end of days. Finn Balor is able to just kind of float over, spinning around, rolls him up into a small package for the 1-2-3. Finn Balor picks up the victory. And I will also say this, one of the shocks of the night for me was when Baron Corbin did like a sunset flip deal. That kind of took me by surprise. I was not expecting Baron Corbin to pull that off. But like I said, Finn Balor wins with a small package. Another B matchup. Like I said, even though it felt like a very fast-paced, rushed matchup, it showcased these two former NXT stars very well. I think that Constable Baron Corbin is just going to get better as time goes on, and Finn Balor is slowly starting to get back on that slope of being the being a trustworthy guy to either wear the IC title or the Universal Championship. You never know. Speaking of the Universal Championship, I should definitely make a side note here, is that we finally got some consequences for Brock Lesnar for no showing half the time. In that retrospect, I actually mean all the time. So, Kurt Angle earlier in the night laid out the law where he basically said either Brock Lesnar shows up tomorrow night and he agrees to face off against somebody for the Universal Championship that he's contractually obligated to do, or he will be stripped of the championship. And when they said the word stripped of the championship, the crowd just erupted with cheers. Because obviously now you can tell there's a lot of people that are not pleased with how things have been going with Brock Lesnar. I am not sure where they're going to go with this. I'm very interested to see where they go with this. But we'll see what happens as time goes on. As soon as we find out tonight, I should say. Oh boy. We're at this match. This is where things just started really... It really just... I was not at all happy with this match. We had Asuka versus Carmella for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship, and James Ellsworth was suspended above the cage. Was there any wrestling involved in this? Well, no. This barely had barely any kind of wrestling holds. There was maybe one point where Asuka tried the Asuka lock, but Carmella was able to get away, which is baloney because James Ellsworth tapped out immediately to it. Why does Carmella have a special exception to the rule? So James Ellsworth is suspended above the ring. We see him, giving Carmella a chain and giving the spray that he used last week. It was just a big kerfuffled mess. The only fun-filled thing that happened from this is that James Ellsworth was able to pick the lock out of the shark cage, and then he goes down and he gets his leg caught by the shark cage, and he's just kind of dangling there, and we get a piñata party on James Ellsworth. Hashtag Ellsworth Piñata Party. It was the only funny and good thing about this matchup because the finish was really, really stupid. We see Asuka beaten up on security. There's even one point where one security guy actually just ran out. I thought it was really, really funny. But he ended up getting beat up later on anyway, so I didn't see too much of a point. Asuka would be thrown into the cage by Carmella, seemingly knocking her out, and then Carmella picks up the victory with that saw. This match, man, it's like everything I love is just dying right in front of me. We had great women's rivalries, and we're just slowly getting this stupid. Oh my god, this is not even fun. This was a grade A failure. I gave this one a complete F. It was the worst matchup of the night. I cannot understand what they're doing with this. It kind of does give a little bit of a leeway of how much they trust Carmella's wrestling ability. But if you can't trust her to wrestle, you just got to get the belt off of her. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case at SummerSlam. I'm hoping that Becky Lynch wins. Oh, man. I want Becky to win so bad right now. Becky Lynch as women's champion is the best thing right now. All right. So from there, we have the United States Championship matchup in which we see Shinsuke Nakamura challenging Jeff Hardy. Earlier in the night during the kickoff show, they actually tried to do an interview with Shinsuke. He tried doing that Twitter deal where it's like hashtag Ask Shin. Renee tries asking, and he's almost like a little Japanese schoolgirl where he's just playing with his hair. He's got this little giddy smile on his face, and then he'll just say something like, "Sorry, bad connection." And then Sam Roberts tries to chime in, and he just goes, "You are crowned like Hardy." And then when Booker T chimes in, that's when he starts answering questions. It just was one of those things where it's like, okay, so basically Shinsuke Nakamura does not like women. He doesn't like white guys. But when it comes to a Hall of Famer like Booker T, he's totally fine with it. Just, wow. I enjoy this Nakamura deal. And the match itself was okay. So, I could honestly describe it as just basically almost like two deals. Low blow, Kinshasa, done. That's really all you need to know with this matchup. Shinsuke Nakamura won the United States Championship in 6 seconds. That is just, oh wow! Nobody was expecting it to be that fast, but it happened, and it worked because then you didn't have to run the risk of Jeff Hardy hurting himself during the matchup. Shinsuke is the United States champion, so that was totally cool to see. After the matchup, we got a surprising return from Randy Orton. He comes into the ring. Nakamura is just on the announce table, just holding his new championship. Then he looks at Jeff Hardy, does a double leg takedown, spreads Jeff's legs apart, and then just stomps on Jeff Hardy's nuts. Oh, man, that just... Jeff Hardy, you are a trooper. You're like the all-star last night. You took 2 low blows, and... oh, my gosh. So, it looks like after Hardy and Nakamura are done, it looks like it could be a rivalry between Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura, which isn't bad. I mean, I loved their matchup that they had last year. So now they're mixing the U.S. title in there. They're going to slowly start giving it a little bit of, prestige. So, again, I'm okay with this. We go on to the next matchup, which is a steel cage match featuring Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman, and it kind of is what you expect, except for the finish. The finish was, oh my gosh, was this finish just crazy. Braun Strowman is just throwing Kevin Owens all over the place. There's some points where Kevin Owens took Braun Strowman down. He was able to hit a cannonball on him, and even was able to hit a frog splash on Braun. It looks like Braun Strowman is going to just try to wreck Kevin Owens. Then Kevin Owens handcuffs Braun to the ring ropes. Excuse me. And Kevin Owens then realizes, oh, hey, I have a chance to escape. So he's climbing up the cage. He's waving at Braun, blowing him a kiss, just being a heel, just being absolutely amazing. I will also say that Kevin Owens also did a suck it taunt to Braun Strowman. That was absolutely hilarious. Braun Strowman would then yank the handcuff off, break it off, and then he would chase after Kevin Owens up the top of the cage, and then he would choke slam Kevin Owens through the announce table in what was probably one of the scariest bumps I've seen Kevin Owens take. He took that hellacious bump off the ladder at Money in the Bank last month, and then he takes this fall. Just, oh my gosh, they're killing Kevin Owens. They're literally just saying, like, you know what, Kevin, you're going to turn into, like, the next Shane McMahon. We're going to just have you do, like, huge spot after huge spot after huge spot. Just don't kill him, please. We would love to see Kevin Owens as Universal Champion. But because Kevin Owens did, in fact, fall through the announce table, he did, in fact, hit the ground first. So Kevin Owens beats Braun Strowman to win the cage match. However, it doesn't seem like Braun Strowman really cared. It literally was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm literally going to kill you, but I don't care about winning because I'm already Monster in the Bank, so I'm already winning. So in the end, Braun kind of wins no matter what. This matchup itself, giving it also a B rating. It wasn't one of those things where it was a bad matchup. There was spots that you kind of expected, but I did love the chemistry between Braun and Kevin Owens, so that definitely made up for a lot of it. Plus, I can't just say that the final spot was anything bad. It was a hellacious spot, so that's one of the reasons why it definitely gave pretty good rating for that. Next matchup on the card is the Bludgeon Brothers taking on Team Hell No for the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championships. Before the matchup even started earlier in the night, Bludgeon Brothers attacked Daniel Bryan and Kane. They actually wedged Kane's foot into a door. Then Eric Rowan took his hammer and just smashed the door, crushing Kane's ankle. But it started off with just Daniel Bryan versus the Bludgeon Brothers. And there were a lot of things that Max and I were joking about, like how Hulk Hogan may come out to save the day, or maybe The Undertaker comes out to save the day, or so many other things. And we ended up getting Kane in a medical boot, which was, honest to God, one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. Some people probably hated it, but I look at this and I think to myself, this is literally like somebody who dressed up as Kane for Halloween, but he couldn't find his other boots, so he just picked a random boot, or it looks like somebody who's just trying to go completely dark, but they couldn't find their other socks, so they just had to make do with like a white sock on one side. It just stuck out so badly. But as soon as Kane got in, momentum started shifting. For a while, it was a kind of 25% Daniel Bryan, 75% Bludgeon Brothers. Team Hell No putting on one hell of a fight, but in the end, we see the Bludgeon Brothers retain with a powerbomb clothesline combo to Daniel Bryan for the victory. The match itself was okay. I think that it's just one of those things where I would have loved for the nostalgia just to still kind of keep it interesting, but really the match itself was not all that good. It did have Daniel Bryan proven why he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, but it's not one of his better matches, I'm not going to lie. So I gave this a solid C. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too great about it, but it is still one of those matches that, nostalgia built up into it. It would have been good. And had they not did the backstage deal, I think it would have been a better matchup. Okay, so we move on to the next matchup, which was Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley. Now, the start of this matchup was kind of slow. People were not exactly into it. But as soon as time went on and Lashley started picking up some speed, I was fairly impressed with what they were doing. Because then Roman Reigns started breaking out some new moves. Bobby Lashley started breaking out some moves. He did, in fact, do his delayed vertical suplex, and it came for a 2 count. Roman Reigns hit 2 Superman punches, one from a spear point that Lashley was trying to go for a spear in the corner, but Roman Reigns countered with a Superman punch, and then Roman would hit another Superman punch when Lashley was on the top. Roman would go for a spear from the outside. He actually tried a deal where he was on the other side of the ring. He runs around the ring, tries to spear Bobby Lashley, but Lashley grabs him and picks him up with a belly-to-belly suplex, hits him on the German announce table, and then the match ends with Roman Reigns going for another spear in the ring, but then Lashley counters with a spear of his own for the 1-2-3. This matchup definitely was better than what I was expecting. I honestly thought it was going to be like Brock and Roman all over again, where Roman probably just goes into just Superman punch mode and then into spear mode. No, it was reduced by leaps and bounds, and it was great to see that. I was not expecting that at all, and I was not expecting that outcome either. Lashley picking up the victory, and I guess establishing that he is the better one, or he has the bigger ego than Roman. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure what it really accomplished, but it was still a really good matchup. Definitely gave this one a solid B. Good match, and the finish definitely made it just that much more better. So we move on to the next matchup, which is the Raw Women's Championship matchup, in which we see Nia Jax challenging Alexa Bliss in an Extreme Rules matchup. This match was nothing too spectacular until Ronda got involved. And I really hate saying that, but it's the truth. Nia Jax was able to do a gorilla press on Alexa Bliss through a trash can. Mickie James got involved, and then Natty got involved, and then Alexa and Mickie James were beating down on Natty. That's where Ronda came in, and we see Ronda beating up on Mickie, and then she tries to get after Alexa Bliss, but then they both beat down Ronda. Then they beat up on Nia Jax, and Alexa Bliss hits her DDT on a chair for the 1-2-3. Oh boy. Yeah, like I said, other than Ronda being a part of this was really a very bleh Extreme Rules matchup. There was nothing too crazy that went on, and I think that they just overhyped Ronda so much that it felt like she had to be a part of the matchup. So I really wish they would have given more to Nia and Alexa, but it is what it is. I gave this one a C. Again, the only redeeming quality here seems to be the fact that Ronda was involved. So we're at the point now where we are assuming correctly that it's going to be Ronda versus Alexa at SummerSlam, which I'm still okay with, but I really wish that they would have given a little more to it. So the next matchup here is the WWE Championship matchup. Rusev with Aiden English taking on AJ Styles. Wow. This was a really good matchup. For Rusev's first WWE Championship opportunity, he definitely made the most of it. You definitely saw moves that made Rusev the Bulgarian brute that he was. He just really drew a lot of powerhouse moves. We saw him do quite a few of those stiff kicks that he would do. He even reversed the calf crusher into an accolade attempt. It was just really good to see that. We saw AJ Styles lock in the calf crusher a little later on during the matchup, and Rusev would try to lock in the accolade, but his leg and his calf were still kind of weak, so he locks in like this half version of the accolade. It was still really good to see. Aiden English helped out Rusev quite a bit. He was also the difference maker when it came to the final result. Aiden English exposed the top turnbuckle, and it was really funny. He kind of did like this head deal where he's just like, "Hey, over here, over here, over here." I think he's trying to warn Rusev. The problem was I think Rusev had his back turned to Aiden English, so he probably didn't know about it. Rusev charges AJ Styles, goes for like a corner splash to that exposed turnbuckle. He hits his head on the exposed turnbuckle, and Rusev would be taken down. AJ would hit a springboard 450 splash, knock out Aiden English, then hit the phenomenal forearm for the 1-2-3. This was a better matchup that I ever really anticipated. Solid A deal. They definitely earned it. And the WWE Championship is getting that prestige back again. They really did a great job of the build-up, and the match itself was definitely more than passable. It definitely exceeded expectations. Absolutely loved it. And I'm hoping that Rusev will be in the WWE Championship picture in the future. Hopefully very soon, but I know they got something else planned. And I'm going to say this, if it is what I think it is, I'm going to absolutely love it. So we go on to the main event matchup, which is the 30-minute Iron Man match between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. I really didn't like the fact that this was the main event because I thought the WWE Championship deserved to headline it. But at the same time, somebody, I believe it was King of the Rings podcast, they pointed this out, that the IC Championship definitely has a lot of the story. It was more in-depth, and it's definitely been put as a higher priority than a lot of the championships. So it made sense, and honestly, there were a couple questions that were going through my mind, mainly put in by my co-host Max. One was that, would this matchup be as good, if not better, than the Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and HBK? Spoiler alert, it's not as good, but it's still really good nonetheless. And would this be a deserving candidate for a match of the night? And honestly, it is. I definitely would consider this the match of the night. We see Seth Rollins win the first couple falls. First, he hits a buckle bomb and locks in a Lob Magic throw pin on Dolph Ziggler for the 1-2-3. Second fall would feature Seth hitting a curb stomp for the 1-2-3. The third fall that Seth would come at the hands of Drew McIntyre, who would get in the ring, get involved, beat down on Seth Rollins, giving him a disqualification victory. And then we would see Drew get told, hey, you're done, you're out, and he would hit Seth with the Claymore. Dolph Ziggler would eventually get to that point where he would just crawl to the cover. 1-2-3. It's 3-2-1. Then Dolph Ziggler would hit a super kick a few moments later for the second fall. Then Dolph would hit a zigzag on Seth Rollins for the tie. Then we see Dolph Ziggler do a deal where Seth Rollins is going for a suicide dive. Dolph hits a elbow to the face of Seth, pins Seth Rollins while using the ropes, giving him a 4-3 lead. And Seth Rollins would be throwing everything that he could, including locking in a sharpshooter and a crossface on Dolph Ziggler to try and get a submission victory. But then Dolph Ziggler would get thrown into the top turnbuckle with a catapult, and Seth Rollins would do a roll-up victory, giving it a 4-4. And then the matchup would end with a 4-4 draw as soon as the timer ends. And I honestly thought that was how they were going to end it. And it was one of those things where I'm like, oh gosh, no. Please, I only need one thing. I just need to hear a certain person's music. Sure enough, dun 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 dun, Kurt Angle's music hits. He comes out to a great reaction from his hometown crowd, and he says, we're not going to have this end in a draw, so therefore we're going to have a sudden death overtime deal. First pinfall, first victory wins the title, ring the bell. So Dolph Ziggler's on the outside. He's just basically like, no, this can't be happening. But then I guess it was also a way to summon his buddy, Drew McIntyre, who would get involved. Seth Rollins would hit him with a knee, sending him out of the ring. Dolph Ziggler would hit the zigzag for the 1-2-3. Dolph Ziggler retains the Intercontinental Championship with a final score of 5-4 in this Iron Man match. A-plus quality matchup. I really enjoyed the chemistry that Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre had in this matchup. Not Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. I saw Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. I'm sorry. The match itself, like I said, was really good. Some parts were very fast-paced, but it was those final four. It was like the final 15 minutes, I think it was, where you definitely saw that they were taking their time, doing new moves and doing something different. Rollins would do his classic moves that he does, like the superplex and the Falcon's Arrow. We see Dolph Ziggler trying to do things like the Famouser and like the DDT to kind of get an edge over Seth Rollins. But again, the match itself was really good. And the question is, where does Seth Rollins go from here? Some people have been asking that. I was asked that question last night, and I said, I think he should go be the Universal Champion. Seth Rollins has definitely proved that he can carry a championship and look really good doing it and giving it extra prestige. So I'm hoping that is indeed that that everything is going to, be... It's going to be really interesting to see how things go from there. So we'll have to see what happens. But honestly, all in all, the event itself, I would give this event a solid, no surprise, B. I think, like I said, it was a really good event. Definitely exceeded a lot of expectations. Like I said, the tag team title match for Raw was really good. I love the results for that. The U.S. Championship was short, but it served a purpose. The WWE Championship match was really good. Both pre-show matches were really good. I was very surprised by that. We had the Roman Reigns versus Lashley match, which was definitely one of the highlights of the night. And then we also had that conclusion of the Iron Man match, which was absolutely amazing. It was great to see that. But unfortunately, when it comes to some of the negatives, it mainly boils down to the two women's championship matches. I really don't like trashing the women's division, but the storylines were just either so predictable or they were just so stupid that it really tampered with and really spoiled what could have been a really good matchup or a really good feud for something else. But with that being said, this has been my Extreme Rules prediction show. This has been my Extreme Rules review show, I should say. Thank you so much for joining me here. Be sure to give a like, give a comment, subscribe here on Spreaker.com as well as on YouTube. Be sure to also follow me on Twitter at RealFNGame. You can also give a follow to my good friend, Mr. Max Beatty, at Agent Cooper 1989. Check out a lot of our wrestling-related tweets. And with that, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of The Game Changer. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.